Hi guys, and welcome to Tailored Talk. Now this is a little new, but I am a fan of Smokey, Steve, and Mark, and this is, it looks like Smokey Steve's coming out story. So we're gonna take a look. I'm just gonna check the volume is okay. I know my volume is crap. There we go. Let's put this all the way up. Okay, let's put this up. Let's go back.
Hello everyone, I'm Steve. Mark's not around, and this is Smokey, Steve, and Mark. Welcome or welcome back, and happy Thursday. It was a very long Thursday here. I could have driven all the way to Maryland and back for how much I was in the car today. So it's very nice to sit somewhere other than a car seat and have a chance to talk to everybody. So, Steve will try it. Please understand the play on words when we're saying Steve will try it, and the try...
Well, Steve, at least you're not damaging the shock on the car like Amber and Foodie do.
It is homosexuality. That I'm being a little tongue-in-cheek. A lot of people know this is Pride Month. You've probably seen it on the news or someone's told you. People keep congratulating us. I think it's okay. But June is LGBTQ plus IA. There's a few other letters there now. Acknowledgement Month. So, I don't know. I'm kind of proud every day. But to the bigger question, what in hell made you try homosexuality? Well, I'm going to give you a little bit of my coming out story. So for Pride Month, I tried, yay, and it stuck. I was always a kind of effeminate, weird, awkward, chubby, smart kid. So I wasn't teased really mercilessly, but I didn't really fit in with anybody when I was coming up through high school and college. I was always a fat kid. That hit everything. And I was kind of smart. I got good grades. So that hit it. Well, then...
And it's funny, did Steve see feminine as weird? Or was he, did he think he was weird because of other reasons?
And when I finally started to feel myself in my teens, I cut off about 100 pounds, not in a healthy way. And I wasn't the fat kid anymore. I was the clearly gay, but he doesn't know it yet kid. And I didn't know it yet. I had suspicions in my head that I was a little bit different. I guess people say, when did you know? I would say start of puberty, probably, something like that. Whatever age men and women or whoever think about self-exploration, around that age is when it started to come up. So I kept it to myself through high school. I was in a Catholic school in a small town in the late 90s. It just wasn't, I kept it to myself. And if people called me
Catholic school.
the F word all the time, which teenagers do. They do it to each other. It's not meant to be a slur like that. And
Have like Girl World, have like Amberlynn and Destiny, Maybay, have they all done their coming out stories? Obviously, we're never going to hear from Crystal, Casey about Casey's coming out and trans story, but has Destiny and Becky, have they told their...
For some reason.
Oh, sorry. Have Destiny and Becky told their coming out stories yet?
So, of course, I was going to say, no, I'm not gay, and which made me sound more gay. I had a girlfriend. She has since come out as a lesbian and has...
Right, he had a girlfriend in high school.
been in a relationship for years. So...
I wonder if Steve's girlfriend knew about him and he knew about her, or whether they just didn't know about each other and continued to date.
It didn't feel like I was too dishonest for her. We dated the longest when I was in The Wizard of Oz as the school play. I was the Tin Man and she was Glinda the Good Witch. So she was cute. We were a cute couple. And then summer comes. That was my senior year. And then, we're into college at that point. Now, I started experimenting with everything. Now, 2000 is when I finished high school, started college. We were the class of the millennium. So, finished in 2000. Over the summer between 2000 and, I would say, May, and then up to August, I started college that year. So the summer between high school and college, I fell in with a friend or two who were interested in kind of the rave scene. And the rave scene was all electronic music, bright colored clothes, drugs were a part of it, definitely, but not all of it. And I liked the scene, and I didn't really do the drugs. I was kind of straight edge when I started going out and about. And it was
It kind of sounds like Corday Howard, because Corday Howard, when his friends would kind of entertain clubbing and going out, he was straight edge in the beginning as well.
fun. I liked it. And I was like, I never really had much of an identity, so I was like, well, here's
That's a lot like how Amber and Foodie are now. They'd still, Foodie's like 39 and Amber's like 31, and they both don't have much of an identity even to this day. And that's why one of the main reasons that Foodie's wearing the hijab and the abayas, and Amber takes on whatever personality any one of her girlfriends has.
a pre-fit life. There's a kind of music I like. There's all these clothes that go with it. It has its own, like any subculture, has its own language. I could have just as easily been emo, goth, indie music fan, the guys that always dress like they're a bike messenger. I could have fallen into any one of those cliques, but this is the one that worked. And what cinched it for me, and it came up pretty quickly. I mean, I'm talking about moving out of my parents' house in August. I was out by October. And it's not that I think they didn't
Wow, that's quick.
know. I think my mother didn't know at all, but she didn't know Richard Chamberlain she didn't know a lot of people were gay. And it had just never come up otherwise. So I go to a rave. It was at an airport hangar in Lebanon, an abandoned airport hangar in Lebanon, PA. And went with a girlfriend of mine and her gay friend. Now, I had never met a true blue homosexual that was around my age.
Is that true bloom homosexual?
All the gay men in my area directed choir and cut hair. I live in a land of stereotypes just because of how small the area is. You go to the gay bar locally and there's like it's like the Noah's Ark of a gay club. There's like 2 leathermen, 2 drag queens, 2 twinks, 2 bears, 2 otters, 2 lesbians. There's always, just a small
The same old people.
amount of everybody here. So even if you are out and gay in Northeast PA, there's not a lot of places to go. Either a gay bar,
And I guess that news would travel fast, being in a place that's that small.
or a gay 12-step meeting. There's not many other designated places. So as I transitioned then from high school into college, I met my new college friends, all my new college friends. And I had a bunch of them and never had friends like that when I was in high school. I had about 2, maybe 3 close friends. And one of them actually went to the same college as me for a year. I went to the University of Scranton as a freshman, and my other bestie at the time, he was also a freshman. And so he had known me for years. It wasn't like I was trying to recreate myself entirely, but I go to a rave with a friend in Lebanon, and we're dancing, and the guy, who I can't really remember his name now, said, "What would you do if I kissed you?"
Oh.
And we had spent the time half flirting, walking around a mall. Now, he wasn't my type, but he was the first guy that told me I looked cute. So
Right, so you're gonna go for that, even if they're not your type, just to experiment with, I guess.
he could have been the Elephant Man. I had just been waiting
Yeah.
for it my whole life. And we hooked up, and told my friend in the car on the way home, and they were all so polite to sound surprised when I told.
With Photo Vibrance, you can transform any photo into a mesmerizing moving image in just a few clicks. Simply drop your image.
Told them. My one girlfriend I told, I said, I just didn't, it just happened. I don't know. I think maybe I do like him. I didn't like him. He was just the first one. He was not much to look at either. So
This kind of reminds me of like Amber and Becky. Like, it's so obvious that Amber didn't find Becky attractive. She just needed a nursemaid and somebody that could drive. So it didn't matter what Becky looked like. It didn't matter what her interests were. It didn't matter if Amber Lim felt chemistry. She just needed someone to look after her, and the fact that Becky found her super attractive was a plus, in my opinion.
So I came out.
I wonder how Steve's parents reacted to his coming out, and where he came out, and did he go home and come out?
So a guy kissed me, and I gave it a few days and talked to a couple close friends who were relatively new friends in college, so I was not too worried about them cutting me off, or I had no idea how people might react. First two people I told said,
That's still a brave thing to do, though, not knowing if they're like super conservative and may cut you off.
pretty much, "Oh good, finally." and "No shit" was another popular response. Then I started with some other college friends, and then worked my way back into my best friend who I knew from high school, from grade school, because I had the most at stake in that friendship, and I was like, well, no ill response. In fact, the little bugger came out 3 months after I did, which had me a little bitter, because high school was hard. I could have used someone to talk to. Of course, he wasn't out either. But, selfish old me, when I first came out, everything was about me, gay, gay, gay.
Yeah. Anne Boleyn is still like that to this day. And I know I'm kind of I'm kind of putting Anne Boleyn into this a lot, but there's a lot of similarities between like Steve's story and the way that Amber lives now.
I was much more flamboyant, a lot more effeminate, if you can imagine. Far thinner, and far more social. If you
Though Steve is actually quite thin now. He looks quite slim to me. I don't know about you guys.
put it that way. I had no role models of how to be a gay adult. I never come up. I never knew any. This was pre-Lady Gaga, pre-Will and Grace.
Pre-Lady Gaga. Pre-Will and Grace. Pre-Gimme, Gimme, Gimme.
All that. So it wasn't as comfortable a topic, I think, for a lot of people.
What about George Michael? Was George Michael around for him growing up? And I don't mean literally. I mean like, was George out when Steve was growing up?
So I called my mother to come out. Now, I wouldn't advise that necessarily unless you have no other options. The only thing worst would be a text or a letter, probably. But when I got back to my dorm, after getting back from visiting with a friend, I called my mom. And I had a friend in the room while I did it, and she was sweet. And we don't talk anymore, and I haven't seen her too much since, but she was there during a very important time. If only briefly, she did me such a bit of help. So I call mom and say a guy kissed me. And
I think he was just like on kind of like a mission. Like once he'd come out to everybody, he was just like, okay, parents are on the list and it's not actually feasible for me to go and see them, so I'm gonna call them and out myself because everybody needs to know.
Kissed him back, or I didn't. No, he kissed me and I didn't stop him. That's what I think I said.
Oh my god.
And she's like, so does that mean you're bisexual? I didn't know my mother knew what gay meant. Not that I think my mother's dumb, but she's naive. And I don't know if she's experienced a lot of stuff or been around it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think that about their parents.
But she knew more than I thought. And she was like, okay. I was like, I remember.
Oh.
I flashed back to the Golden Girls when they were
Epic. Golden Girls, epic. If I could do reactions on the Golden Girls, I probably would. If is it copyrighted? Would I get into copyright trouble? There's only one way to find out.
Talking about Sophia's son, Dorothy's brother.
And he was Phil, the crossdresser. Golden Girls history, Golden Girls trivia.
Who wore dresses and was into cross-dress.
Yeah, and then he died unexpectedly. And Sophia also had that feud with Phil's wife. They hated each other.
And they were like, hey, he was married, he had a life, loved him the way he was. Of course, he was also still straight, but...
Yeah, and that was new. That was seen as kind of a trademark in TV, because back then it was just assumed that any guy that did cross-dressing was gay, and like as we know now, that's not always the case. And the Golden Girls were just kind of like, stumbling onto new territory with that and opening a lot of new conversations for people. The Golden Girls is so epic.
Sophia's concern was that people would think it was her fault, that she did something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Something wrong. That's how he turned out. And what his wife in the episode says is what he was a good man. I'm like, okay, so...
And then Sophia says in one of the most The most hard-hitting
I'm
scenes
not
in Golden Girls
necessarily a
history.
villain just because of this
Sorry, click. One of the
part
most
of my
hard.
life.
There we go. One of the most hard-hitting scenes in Golden Girls history, and Sophia breaks down at the end and says, after the wife says what Phil was a good man, Sophia breaks down and says, "My baby is gone," and she kind of collapses in the wife's arms, and it's implied at the end that they're starting over a new leaf. The Golden Girls was so freaking amazing. I wonder if they're gonna reboot it.
And then the family reaction. Mom told Dad. She asked me to call my sister. I did. I have I ever spoken to my sister on the phone? We usually
Oh my god, so his mother asked him to call his sister and come out? Wow.
catch up at like family visits and stuff. So when I called, she was kind of like, "Yeah." Not much else to say. I went to my brother's dorm room. We were in the same school, the University of Scranton. He was 2 years ahead of me. And his girlfriend, now wife, was in his dorm room with him. And you got to know my brother. He's a very nice guy. He's actually relatively liberal, but he's super duper Catholic. His whole room had rosaries and icons and all
Oh my god.
sorts of stuff. I mean, my skin started to burn just walking.
Imagine walking in there and being like, "Hey older brother, I'm gay. I'm gay," to your super conservative religious older brother. Oh my goodness.
in. So, not knowing how this was going to go, I brought a friend also. So I brought one of my girlfriends with me, and she was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll be there for support." Whatever.
Oh wow. Is bringing a friend a good idea in a moment that's so private?
Okay. So I freak out about this for like 2 hours, finally go to his room, tell him, and he basically says, almost verbatim, "No shit, I knew since high school."
Well, that went well.
So at that point, I was kind of surprised by my brother, rather grateful that he didn't blow up my spot, because I think he knew it wasn't his to do. It was my life, and it was
Yeah, but some siblings will do that.
it would either come with the
They will out you just for fun.
eventually, or it wouldn't. And he was supportive. He was fine, and it was okay. So there went the family mostly. But I hadn't been home yet. I hadn't been home for like Thanksgiving. This was all in just a couple of months. And plus it was my first year of college. Like, I'm trying to go to class too. Like, I don't want to fail out. But it was just one of a lot of things that was going on. So brought the boyfriend home, the one who kissed me, and I didn't stop him. And yeah.
Oh right, that was the boy. That became your boyfriend. Okay.
So he's visiting me here in Scranton. At the time, he was living in New Jersey. So he drives up about 2 hours to here, and he's seen me a few weekends like that. So he comes up with me to my parents' house, and it turns out to be the night that my sister and her husband announced their engagement.
Oh wow. So there's a lot going on.
So Mom was ahead of herself in a good way and said, "Oh no, bring what's his name?" You know, she's like, "I want all my kids here."
Bring that guy that you're not really interested in, but is like your leapfrog into gay legitimacy.
Here with everybody. I'm like, "Oh, okay." So my brother had his then girlfriend, and I had the guy I was with, and my sister was there with her husband. So they had big good news. And I didn't want to spoil it, but it was the first time I saw anybody since I was... So there might have been discussions to be had. Some people might have had questions or concerns or anything. So my dad doesn't get up to meet him out of the living room chair, doesn't say hi, and he also doesn't go introduce himself to my father, which my father would have liked probably.
Yeah, but I can understand if your father's not getting up to meet him or making any effort, then your boyfriend may have thought, well, if your dad's not going to make any effort, then why should I? Which may be wrong, but that may be how he felt at the time. Who knows?
So I wasn't really sure he was too well, what's to be into? It's just who I date, but he didn't seem too cool with it at first. I think maybe give it a year and he started to not warm up to the idea, but be,
Like just go along with the idea.
friendly to other guys I brought home, talkative. He has more to talk about with Mark than I do because they do all these projects all over the house. But the only time I did bring it up to Dad, and it was funny, he was driving me home from Easter break, fall break, maybe. And I had asked Mom, well, what does Dad think? And my mother's always curious, what does Dad think? Because he's strong silent type. We don't know until something comes out of his mouth. And I think she had said...
I wonder what his dad's body language was like back then.
He had said, it's not what I would prefer, for him, but if that's what it is, it's what it is. And I was like, oh, okay. So then I brought it. Mom told me as much. So then I asked Dad personally, and he's driving me back. He starts driving faster and faster
Oh dear.
and faster as I'm talking and talking.
You don't want to start an accident, Dad.
And we get pulled over by the police. I've
Oh my
never
God.
seen my father get pulled over in 70 years of life. But as I'm having this discussion, a cop interrupted. I took it as divine intervention
Maybe he did it on purpose. Maybe he was stressed out, but maybe his dad did it on purpose because he didn't want to deal with this right now.
and didn't pursue the matter further. But as years went on,
Happy Father's Day. This is hilarious.
I know a lot of gay guys especially have issues with their dads. You know, it's a guy thing, it's a man.
You know, guy thing, toxic masculinity, also, you know, blaming themselves as well. Did I raise my son to be right? Did I raise my daughter right? Is there anything that I could have done that could have stopped this from happening? Is my son a real man? You know, so many questions.
Man, whatever. That's all horseshit anyway. But I didn't grow up, fortunately, with expectations of boys do this, girls do that.
That's good.
You know, I used to play with my sister's Barbie head and cut its hair and do its makeup, but I also played Little League. I also fell off my bike 1,000 times. I'd get covered in cuts. You know, I played basketball. I did other athletic sort of things that you would associate with young, straight, you know, boys will be boys. And then all that changed as I got older. So once we got rid of the first boyfriend, I moved to Philadelphia because after a year in Scranton in college, I'm like, I'm dying here. Because I had already been out. There was no other gay people there except for like 3. They
And you probably weren't interested in them.
had a GLB group, which no one knows what that means because no one uses that anymore, for gay people who go to the university. It was a Jesuit Catholic
Is that gay, lesbian, bisexual?
school. And it was run through the counseling center, sort of like counseling us on having a hard time dealing with being on that campus. It's like, you know, counseling center. I didn't really go for that. Homosexuals Anonymous, didn't go for it.
Homosexuals Anonymous. Okay, this is why I watch your channel, Steve.
And I was a little too out, I think, for some people's taste in that group.
How can you be too out? How can you be too out of the closet?
By the time the guy and I had broken up that year, I started dating again because why wouldn't I? I'm
And who did you date?
free.
You know, I just really feel like if Amber was slimmer, she would have completely dismissed Becky, because Amber has a pretty privileged complex and she feels like she's above so many other women in terms of looks that she never would have looked Becky's way if she was like an average sized woman. She never would have even
single, and I certainly had to.
Sorry, there we go. She never would have even breathed in Becky's direction if she was just an average sized woman. It's only because she needed someone that she viewed as lesser than and quite homely in terms of looks, so that they would feel lucky to have her, and then she could, you know, throw money at Becky and manipulate her into being a caretaker, which is exactly what happened. But this story is just kind of reminding me that, you know, Amber just kind of used Becky. She was never attracted to her and just kind of milked Becky for all that she was worth, and just to help her out as a nursemaid and physically. And then when Becky finally had enough, it was easy for Amber to toss Becky away and bring wifey in. That's just my opinion.
Free and single, and I didn't really have teen years having crushes and romantic relationships and flirting with people that if you're straight you might do. You know, you pass notes, go to a dance. Like, there was nothing. I wasn't even going to approach the topic as a teen anyway, because I think I would have gotten thrown out. I don't think now I would have, but at the time I was very afraid of that. So now we're through school, through the rest of college. I'm still hitting bars once in a while. I would date someone for a while and then not, and then date someone and then not, and then just have...
That would be interesting to hear Steve go into depth about his dating life at that time. To go to Philadelphia and then, you know, to be being in a small group of LGBT in a small little Noah Arks club to then going to Philadelphia and experimenting and dating with this guy and that guy. I'd like to hear more about that and what it was like. Was it like going from 0 to 100 for him?
Have a couple of casual encounters, enjoying the company of gentlemen.
Doesn't he sound like Blanche Devereaux? Just right there.
Hitting bars once in a while. I would date someone for a while. You might do. You pass notes, go to a dance. Like, there was nothing. I wasn't even going to approach the topic as a teen anyway, because I would have I think I would have gotten thrown out. I don't think now I would have, but at the time I was very afraid of that. So now we're through school, through the rest of college. I'm still hitting bars once in a while. I would date someone for a while and then not, and then date someone and then not, and then just have a couple of casual encounters, enjoying the company of gentlemen.
That is such a Blanche Devereaux old-fashioned Southern line.
Safely as possible, but at will. And I would, go out a few nights a week. So
your wearable health and fitness coach now tracks stress. If you don't already know, Whoop is a wearable device that monitors recovery, sleep, training, and health.
So guys, this is just taking forever to load and I don't know why.
Moved back from Philadelphia to Carbondale, and then to Scranton, and then ended up back at my parents' house. And after I ended up back there, I thought it was going to be a little rest. This was when my addiction and drinking and everything came in.
Oh, right.
And I wasn't able to do anything, let alone...
Was the sexuality and was being uncomfortable with his sexuality a part of the substance abuse, or did it have nothing to do with his substance abuse?
Own date. So it was really a non-issue for a number of years, from 2007 to 2012. I met Mark in 2010.
That's a long time.
And when I was in treatment, and there seems to be a disproportionate number of gay men in the treatment center I was in. It was all men, but I think it was 18 of us, and I would say 6 of us were gay.
Wow, that's a lot. Jesus,
that's a lot.
That's a lot. Wow.
To the population, that was actually helpful at that time.
Was it?
Because treatment is either a waste of time or life-saving, depending on who you ask. So.
And did it become life-saving because you could relate to the guys in there?
I was trying to make use of it. I had my first big gay crush in a long time on Mark, because I had already fallen through. I was just doing social bar stuff in Philly, and then there's nowhere to go up here, and I was a drunk driver, so I lost my license.
Oh my God.
And I don't come from a family like that of, well, you lost your license, but it'll probably be okay. We don't do that. So I didn't drive, and I didn't drive for about 6 years. So it's hard to have a social life when you're...
Wow.
Not winning the fight against alcoholism or mental illness, living in your parents' house, sleeping on my sister's old futon, drinking Listerine out of the bottle. I wasn't quite the catch, so it really didn't matter at a certain point.
And I wonder what were his triggers for the substance use. What looking back, what were the main reasons for his multiple addictions? He's probably spoken about this before. I'll probably need to go through his catalogue and check that out.
Gay, straight, bi, or anything, because I was not going to be with anyone ever again for the rest of my life because I was too unlovable. So all the addiction, negative self-talk, all that kind of crap comes through. And I didn't think I wanted to get married. Like, I really didn't think I wanted to get married at all. I thought committed relationships are good, but I don't know if it's the great love of my life or is it the great loves of my life. Hard to say. I just married one after dating a lot, and I tried enough men on for size. So I was pretty happy with where it landed. Mom was right for me as far as advice, to be friends first and give it some time.
So I wonder, how do Steve's parents now feel about Mark? How does Steve's dad feel about Mark?
And that's done that. So my life is kind of my advocacy for equal treatment, equal celebrations, that kind of thing. Like, I'll give you an example of where where I felt equally treated. I got married. I invited folks from work, and they came.
That's nice. That is nice.
You know, nobody had to come.
I mean, I know straight people, that wouldn't really invite co-workers because they don't see them as friends. So
There wouldn't have been sore feelings. A couple people couldn't make it for a number of different reasons, but they showed up for my wedding.
that's nice. That's super cool.
The people who attended my wedding, I don't know if they know what a big deal it was. Like, for Mark and I. It was such a big deal. I looked out in that room and I saw, like, 30 years worth of friends.
That's so sweet.
Old friends, new friends, old therapists, new therapists.
Oh my god, therapists showed up. You know you're a cool person when therapists show up to your wedding or to an event. That's cool.
Family I hadn't seen in a while. Family that I had seen recently. I was stunned. I thought, for this awful thing I am, all these people showed up to clap.
Wow, for this awful thing I am, people showed up to clap. Wow. Wow, and to still think that at your wedding, is there a battle of internalized homophobia going on within Steve still?
I was stunned. I thought, for this awful thing I am, all these people showed up to clap.
And that was at his wedding to Mark. This awful thing that I am, people showed up to clap. Wow, what a line.
And my father handed us the rings. So,
Oh wow, his dad's totally accepting. That's so nice.
I'm very happy with where it is now.
I've just got to go back and listen to that line again. Hang on.
In a while, family that I had seen recently. I was stunned. I thought, for this awful thing I am, all these people showed up to clap.
For this awful thing that I am, people showed up to clap. Wow, that line is so devastating.
And my
But he does speak for a lot of LGBTQIA people. That line is so sad.
father handed us the rings. So, I'm very happy with where it is now. Everyone's coming out story and trying to find themselves story, whether you're gay or not. Trying to find yourself as a teenager can be challenging.
Yeah, whether you're gay or not, teenage years are just bleh.
If someone hands you an identity, sometimes it's easy, but if you're trying to find yourself, it was tough.
And I do think that's what Foodie is trying to do. She's trying to pretend that Salah handed her an identity, and that's modest Muslim housewife, and she's trying but failing because that's not who she is.
I had a lot of support. I had really good friends when I was in college. I had really good friends, in my working years after. I did the 12-step thing for a number of years right out of treatment, and it was very beneficial. I don't attend now. Don't regret going, but don't regret not going now. And there was people there I met who were incredible. And even though I don't do the 12-step thing, as is almost unheard of, I call people still in the meetings because I still care how they're doing and they still care how I'm doing, even if we're not in the same club. So there's good people everywhere. And I was pretty much convinced I was just going to be once an outcast, always an outcast, don't want to belong. It's easy to say you don't want to belong when no one's invited you along. That was kind of how I had always felt.
I feel that kind of Foodie and Amber, and to an extent Tammy did live by that as well. It was easy for Tammy to blame her family for her issues and point fingers at herself. It's easy for Amber to say that, Destiny, used me and blame Becky for the cancer issue because she doesn't want to point fingers at herself and acknowledge her own flaws.
Now, if we're not in the same club. So there's good people everywhere. And I was pretty much convinced I was just going to be once an outcast, always an outcast, don't want to belong. It's easy to say you don't want to belong when no one's invited you along. That was kind of how I had always felt.
Yeah, it's the same with Amber and the friendship thing. It's easy to say that she has like a full life and a great life with so many friends. Sorry, this is just starting. There we go. There we go. It's easy for Amber to say that. everybody loves her and that she's got so many friends that she goes out with and hangs with every day, when there's absolutely no proof. Like Amber's whole life, sorry, I don't know what the hell is going on. Amber's whole life, I swear, like most of it concerning encounters with people is just fan fiction. It's not real, but she's completely happy to live in that fan fiction world, as long as there's nobody there to film the reality, the harsh, cold reality that the only person that Amber Lynn has is wifey. You know, a paid stranger that she doesn't know from Adam to play nursemaid. That in itself is so sad. And if Amber was a better person, I'd feel sorry for her.
Of all the things I've been in therapy for, the gay thing is the least of it. It's the least of it, which is great. I learned a lot about what I want out of relationships, with partners and what I don't, and that's why I ended up with Mark, because he had more of what I wanted than anyone I'd come across, and wanted to try to build a life with him. And it's such a journey because it's been over 20 years since I've been out. My coming out date was actually October 6th of 2000, I believe.
I wonder if everybody remembers their coming out date, LGBTQIA, or whether they were just so freaked out by the coming